In 2017, Seattle had one of the biggest human trafficking busts in U.S. history. If you don't know, human trafficking is the illegal transportation of people from one country or area to another for forced labor or sexual acts. This is a big worldwide issue that takes place all around us, and people don't always know how to prevent it or what the threats look like.
In 2017, Seattle had a huge human trafficking bust. The prostitution business was a tightly run operation, mostly involving South Korean women. The women spoke very little English and were hired by an agency that assigned them to work in different cities for short periods of time. An undercover cop found that most of the women had debt in South Korea and were forced to pay it off as prostitutes.
A man named Sigurd Zitters set up the review board, a site where men could post sexually explicit reviews based on the women and their abilities. Men posted under pseudonyms like Captain America or Tahoe Ted, saying things like, "I love tiny Asian girls," and "Lomi is as tiny as they get." Another man was named Donald Mueller. He was a member of a local group of sex buyers called the League of Extraordinary Men, and his involvement included leasing apartments and recruiting girls.
A woman called in an anonymous tip informing the police about a suspicious string of men flowing in and out of her neighbor's apartment. Undercover cops played a large role in taking down the operation by sending out fake ads offering sex in exchange for money, then arresting men who responded after they showed up to the condo. After the trial, because he had no criminal history, Zitters was sentenced to 90 days of electronic house arrest. A customer, Paul Reinhardt, with over 400 posts on the review board, was only sentenced to 6 months of work release.
Some ways people become or stay victims of human trafficking include kidnapping, bribery.
If you perform some services for me, I can offer you food and housing.
Sure.
Blackmail,
If you don't come with me, I'm taking your family instead.
Fine, just don't hurt my family.
manipulation,
Hey, if you really love me, you'll come and do this for me.
Okay.
Haha, yeah, funny. As a result of human trafficking, the victims suffer from worthlessness, PTSD, depression, social withdrawal, anxiety, worry, agitation, guilt, etc. without reason, insomnia. Some physical injuries include immense weight loss, loss of energy,
So rude.
broken bones, concussions, STDs, STIs, sudden aches or pains, or being raped several times a day.
Don't share personal information about yourself or your family to strangers.
Hey, so what's your address, the address of your parents, your mom's maiden name, your social security number, your credit card number, your PIN? Hey, come back.
There are several ways to detect human trafficking. Most victims will not be allowed to come and go as they please. Their main source of income would be tips, and they will be fearful around police and authorities. Physical signs you can look for include living spaces on work premises and limited clothing, of which a majority is revealing.
signs of a child involved in human trafficking are sudden disappearances, extremely secretive behavior, unexplained money and presence, drug and alcohol experimentation, and low self-esteem or eating disorders.
The U.S. government is further preventing human trafficking cases from occurring by having detectives go undercover as the traffickers to understand the human trafficking system and arrest several criminals. They are also implementing laws such as the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000, which includes prevention, protection, and prosecution against human traffickers.
The victims involved in human trafficking suffer from PTSD, depression, anxiety, and loss of self-worth. They are taken advantage of and forced to exploit themselves in unimaginable ways.
They lose their trust in people and in justice, as if it feels as if everyone has turned their back against them. Many who hear these stories become worried for their own safety, but do not take actions to prevent even the slightest chance of becoming a victim.
Human trafficking is much more common in the U.S. than people would believe. In the Seattle bus, for example, no one would believe that that such a large human trafficking incident was occurring in a major city.
Our ignorance towards this issue makes it unsafe for not only girls, but women and children across the country. We hope you have gained a deeper understanding for not only what human trafficking is and about, but also what you can do to keep yourself safe.